Many intermediate players have developed backhands that they slice all the time, and many times it's the weakness of their game because they just don't get anything on the slice. They feel confident that they can somehow get the ball back, but they can't do anything to hurt or even neutralize their opponent. We even see the best players in the world that have really developed good slice backhands to change the pace and sometimes to keep the player out of their strike zone, keeping the ball low, sometimes taking them wide in an angle. We see Murray use it a lot. Nadal's improved his slice. Obviously, Federer really uses his slice well. So for intermediate players that want to get a little bit more power, a little more pop on their slice, they already have the slice, but they just need a little bit more weight behind it. There's a few good tips that they can work on to really make that a much better shot, maybe even turning it into more of a weapon. The two main things we want to do to get a little bit more power on that slice backhand and drive is get the racket a little bit lower so it's a little bit more of a level swing so that you can get that drive out towards your target. Two things happen. Some players will just take it up a little too high and end up having to cut down to the ball, therefore not being able to go forward, so they're just cutting down on the ball and not getting any weight behind it or any racket behind it. The other thing that sometimes can happen is players will change their posture, so even though they feel like their racket is fairly low, they will lean down this way to play a ball here, therefore coming down this way, and the same idea, I can't get through it. So make sure your posture is good before you figure out where your racket is, and that will help give you a concept or an awareness of where that racket is when I'm going to come through the ball. The second thing is transferring some weight into the ball. If we want it to be a little bit more powerful, not a neutralizer or a defensive shot, we want to get weight into the ball. We're not going to rely on a lot of racket head speed because that ends up being wristy, and if you could see, if I try and throw my racket at the ball with a lot of racket head speed, I really can lose control. So I'm keeping my wrist fairly firm, but I'm getting a good step into the ball, and that is giving my weight, whether I want to play it on the rise or the ball's a little lower and I'm going to wait. I'm going to step in. Doing that properly should keep my posture straight because you can see both where my racket ends up going and how I'm able to step in is going to be dictated by good posture and keeping my back straight. Because if I bend over a little bit too much this way, I'm not in a strong position. It's going to be very difficult to keep my wrist firm, and it's going to be hard to keep my head still. Sometimes you'll see players here, and then the ball gets back this way. They're trying to lean in too early, the ball gets back into them, and they're having to rock back, lifting their head up. So head stays still. I want to try and turn quickly and early, but keep that posture, getting my feet behind the ball as early as possible and stepping in so I can get a nice driving slice to keep my opponent back and keep the ball low. So in reviewing the ways to improve that slice back and to make it a little bit more into a weapon, a little bit more power, we're going to prepare early, good footwork, good posture, but being aware of where our racket is. So they're not taking our racket up too high, so we're chopping down onto contact, but we're driving through contact a little bit more. Second thing is with good footwork, we are going to be able to get our weight into the ball rather than letting the ball play us, chopping down, no weight into the ball. So our shoulder is there, coming through the ball, and as always, we're keeping our head still so we can really track the ball all the way to our racket and all the way through our swing.